Mm.
Wow. Welcome everybody to Viva Alive and our new series, The Science of Change and Wellbeing. I'm here with my dear friend, Daniela Limos. I can't speak today. And we're going to talk about something super cool, which is, are you stuck? And have fear of change? Because that's a place a lot of people don't move forward from. They're looking for something and then it's like taking that next step. So what do you know about this, Daniela?
Hi, everybody. Welcome. Oh, I think when we hear the word change, they usually think of big events, for example. Yeah, and like change careers, change a company, starting a company, moving for a new city. But I think the most changes begin long before that. The begin. The begin when we shift the way we perceive something, when we ask a different question, yeah, we start to change something like small changes. We know that possibility we before, and change doesn't begin when the situation changes, but change begins when the perception changes.
So my question to you, so if we're looking at the science of this, and I'm going to just lead you into this. So does change occur when your perception changes, or do you change the perception?
Wow.
Okay, I'll just yeah. So my idea of this is that what we do is we're looking for something to be different, and we make a choice. We go, this is like, for me, usually it's like, this is changing no matter what. We've come to a place where it's not working, and this is changing no matter what, is the first nuance. And then I go, okay, I don't know what I need to choose here, but let me just start making choices. And the choice starts to change the direction of where things are. The question starts to change the direction of where things are. And then our perception of the possibilities is kind of, I think, what starts to steer it in a new direction. Does that seem about accurate to your knowing?
Yeah, yeah. I think what is difficult is holding on to what no longer works for us. We had
Well,
a lot of example for that.
well, holding on to what no longer works for us. And I think that people get used to living in torture, like used to putting up with what it is that's there. And, people talk about there's a degree of discomfort in when something's up. And a lot of people in this field talk about sit in the discomfort. I go, no, don't sit in the discomfort. You know something's up. Why don't you just make a choice and then start for it to become different?
Yeah. And it takes energy. Insisting on decisions that don't work anymore takes energy, right?
Yeah. And how much energy are we using against us? Like knowing that something needs to be different, that it drags us down and keeps us like stuck in the mud when we don't really have to do it that way, just to become aware that, there's something here that's not really working. And the idea of the fear of change. So what is that for you, Daniela? Because that's part of this
Yeah,
topic is like, so people, would like something different, but they're afraid of change. So what is that really?
yeah, we're stuck sometimes because we are holding up something that shouldn't have already been transformed. And this realization changed the way I came to see change. For example, we live in a time when you never had so much access to knowledge, information.
Hmm.
Yeah, content is no longer a resource. So an important question appears for me. If information were enough to transform people, or my opinion, or my decision to change, why do we keep repeating so many partners or stay in the same situation?
Would you like to know that scientifically?
Yeah, what's happened with the brain, for example?
We create the places that we create negative aspects in our world, particularly when it comes to trauma and that kind of thing, creates a connection to a black hole in space in the cosmos. You sure you want me to keep going? And so from that, we to pull out of that place of that space requires us to make a choice. And that's the piece because people like kind of get stuck in this place. And if you were just to make a choice, like, okay, first of all, we know that fear isn't really real. Oops, did I say that out loud? Because how we know this is that if you go, this isn't fear, and walk right into it, it disappears. And when things are real, they don't disappear. Like gratitude never disappears. It doesn't disappear because it's real. But fear, if you go, wow, I'm really, let's say, afraid to do this talk, or I'm afraid to go talk to my boss, or I'm afraid to talk to my husband, let's say. And then you go, okay, I'm doing this. You find that place and you walk forward and you walk into the what you think is fear. You will notice it will disappear. And it's kind of like just walking forward towards it and it disappears, which means it can't possibly be real.
Yeah,
And that's kind of interesting because that means we can actually change things in our lives without coming from the place as though there's fear. And I wonder, sometimes when we look at, is it from your perspective, Daniela, is it that we're afraid to let go of what's uncomfortable, or is it we're people who get stuck? Is it fear of letting go of what's uncomfortable? Or is it fear of what the possibilities are? Like, what is that thing?
yeah, yeah. There is a two situations here, but I think you more about our body, our brain, for example. Yeah, I think it's afraid of the new possibility and how we can deal with that with safe. And I think the brain creates habits, right? And it does automatic decisions. And sometimes that doesn't mean it's a change against change. It means that the brain seeks safety and predictability. And
Oh,
yeah,
so it's the predictability conversation. I don't get that it's safety. I get it's predictability,
okay.
in a sense. Not that it's wrong, but it's kind of like when I ask, it's like, is that safety really? Because people cling to predictability because it's all they know, which means then you continue to create the predictable life, which is a life that you would like to not be in, which is the thing that's creating it life as to be uncomfortable, that
Hmm.
requires something different. So
Yeah.
what if the word is not change? What if it's creating something different to
Yeah.
take the charge out of the idea that, you know, it's a big hole of not knowing what is next.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Um, when we are awareness how this works, can we stop reading this natural response of the brain as a limitation?
Well, I don't think it's the brain that's a limitation. For me, the sense it's the mind. Because the brain it just processes information,
Mhm.
even though they're intricately connected. It's the mind that is the thing that creates the memories or the repeatable patterns that are there. And the repeatable patterns are the place where we choose not to move forward because we're seeking something that's familiar. But if the familiar isn't working for you, you would repeat it for what reason?
Yeah.
And what if what's familiar to you actually you became familiar of choosing it that way, but it's not even the world that you live in?
Hmm.
Like the idea that we need to persist, persist with things that don't work. You know, how many people in the world that you know, or do you know in your own world, that where you're hanging in and persisting as though you can muscle your way through it, as if muscling your way through it would actually be okay. And it's a learned pattern that humanity has, but it doesn't actually, it just makes life torturesome.
Hmm.
And, you know, the funny thing is, when you look at that, like, would you torture yourself for what reason? You know, I just want to add something here because we're talking about making making choices and not knowing where our choices are, where they take us. But literally, we do not know in any second, nanosecond, what our life is going to be. So we are always living in the unknown, 100% always living in the unknown. So if we're always living in the unknown, why are we looking for patterns and using the idea that we're looking for something that is recognizable and comfortable when it's actually the unknown that we're actually living in? Did I just scramble everybody's brain?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the ability to interrupt automatic responses and create new possibilities for choices, it's important. That space where transformation begins. And I try to stop with the conclusions all the time. Sometimes you go for this way. My relationship has always been this way. I'm just who I am, or my family's like that. I have to go for that way. But I think the more definitive a conclusion it is, the smaller our ability to perceive new possibilities tends to be. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a perception that there is something else. The perception that, you know, in that moment, if things are not exactly working, Well, how could they?
Hmm.
How could they be different? And it could be just a simple question like that, where you look at it and realize that things require something different for your own happiness. People underrate happiness as though it's like, the last thing on the list, when in fact, it should be the first thing on the list, from my perspective. And if you were happy, then would you have more energy?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe the question is how to create the conditions to change to happen with more easy. A few choices
Well, yeah,
with that.
sorry. That's
Yeah,
true. So what if change or bringing in new ways of doing things is not difficult? What if it's not difficult at all? But what do you know about how to create change, Daniela?
yeah. Tools. I like tools.
Me too.
Or the first one is ask more questions. I think I use this tool all the time.
Asking questions.
Asking question. Yes.
Hmm.
Stop trying to change everything at once. For example, you can make small choice every day. Yeah.
Well, I always think, well, why wouldn't you want to change everything all at once? But that's my point of view. That's changing. I don't care if it's all at once. It may not show up all at once. That's a funny thing.
Yeah, exactly.
But we might desire it. Like when it comes to, by example, a lot of people come to me and that I work with, and they're looking to have more money. Well, why wouldn't you want it to change and show up all at once to have more money? Why wouldn't you want to have your relationship become nurturing and greater instantaneously? I go, it's a possibility.
Yeah.
All you need to do is ask for it. And the funny thing is, it's like that question is like, what would it take to change this?
Yeah. Yeah. I have another good one.
Oh,
I
good.
I see well-being as a strategy.
Okay.
An overruled mind perceives fewer possibilities. An emotionally exhausted teams makes more limit decisions. For example, in a workspace.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think if we want to innovation, creativity, new possibilities, we also need to uh, take care of our well-being, like system. Can I say that? But because I think our choice, our behavior, and our performance, for example, goes to go better in the space that you are living better with well living, for example.
So how does that translate? How does that translate into the real world? If you if you put well-being in the forefront.
Wow. Yeah, I can perceive that each person has the way different to live, but you can ask question, for example, and you have to be open for a possibility to go for a different space
Hmm.
and um, live what is true for you. Feel in your body, in your mind, and yeah, and you have choice. You have different choice for that.
And that's true. And and it's interesting to bring into the picture, living what is true for you. Because for a long time, we have, I think, as humanity has been duplicated from the idea, duplicated how everybody else does it. This is the right way to do it. So there's this been people follow what it is, they neurologically mirror it, and they continue to go along the same path. So we have societies and humanity all functioning from the same kind of way, that this is the way it's done, except for the rebel rousers, the black sheep, which there's a lot of black sheep out there. And that's like what a great thing that is. Um, so in order for us to get it so people are living better and functioning better, we actually have to be what I'll call brave enough to live based on what is true for us. And from that, we will start to move the needle so that everybody else can have a different possibility. So, what is it that people could be? What is it that we could share with people, Daniela, that would allow them to be able to perceive the possibilities and take another step in the direction of what works for them?
Yeah, for a long time, I believe that change required force, for example. But
Hmm.
today, I ask myself whether, in many cases, what we really need, I really need, is to expand my perception,
Okay.
my awareness. Because when we perceive more, we choose better. And
Uh-huh.
when you choose better, you change. Change stop being just a goal and becomes a consequence.
Yeah, that's true. And it could be just making choices and starting to work in the arena of of living, that you choose something and then you find out, wow, that's really working for me. And then a little while later you might find, I'm not sure that's still working for me, or it requires something in addition to it. So it's not an end goal of the choice that you've made. And you can always go, I'm doing this, and then a week later go, it's not working anymore, and then just not do it anymore. Not live that way, not be that way. Because really, we're evolving all the time. We are evolving all the time. So us staying stuck when the whole universe is evolving isn't really helping us. When our lives are evolving and our workplaces are evolving and changing, and us
Yeah,
staying stuck actually makes it very uncomfortable.
exactly.
So we can always start to make choices and choose things. And it was funny because I'm just writing this article right now. And it's funny because I went, the reviewer is telling me that I need to do this particular thing. And I went, okay, he's not accurate to what I'm saying, but do I need to be right? Or can I do it in another way that will integrate, what it is that he's imagining and what I'm imagining, and create something different. So rather than fighting, I'll go, is there another possibility here? Like what is it that's there that I could do that's different, so that it takes the fight out of the necessity of like not moving the article forward. So it's really funny how we can do that, and we can invoke change in our worlds from just the necessity of not looking at it from the necessity of being right, but the possibility of creating more. And to me, I went, oh, I don't have to be right about this and tell him he's wrong. He's not seeing everything I'm seeing, and that's okay. But I could actually include him in the possibility. And now it creates something way different, way different. And just with that choice, now if we're looking at how to change things, just with that choice, I could see all the possibilities in the article. More possibilities, which then more people who would have a broader perspective are now included in the article,
Wow.
right? So all of these things that we do, from the need to be right and the need to force things, which is a really great point, Daniela, because it's true. We learned that change requires force and constriction and fight against and conflict. But what
Yeah.
if it's not conflict?
Yeah.
What if the possibility has no conflict in it and only lightness and space,
Yeah.
lightness and possibilities? And I think that that's such a great point you've made, because when we start to look at it and not force, but choose and bring in something new, other people along the way will sense the difference. I don't know. Could we be creating something different?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what is it that we can leave people with today as a way of adding to their lives so that they can move forward and be unstuck?
Yeah.
What could you say as a final question? We always usually end this sector with questions. So what would you ask, or what would you share?
If you could expand your perception in one area of your life or your work, for example, what would be the first change you'd like to experience?
Okay. So that's a really great question, because people never generally talk about the experience. They usually talk about, like, so what is it you would like to experience? Like, that's such a great question. For me, I'm always looking for, my experience is usually looking for exploration and the joy of, seeing what the possibilities are, like the curiosity of living. But that's what's true for me. Other people might look at it and go, I would like my experience just to be that I don't have to try so hard, Like, it depends on who you are.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So let's see, what question could I ask? Um, if there was no such thing as fear, and you could have anything in your life as an experience, what choice could you make today that would start to move you forward to what you're asking for?
Wow. That's great.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Have a great one. Bye.